Hey everyone! So I came across this really thought-provoking article recently, and it posed a question that kind of gets stuck in your head. If ancient holy books are supposed to be an instruction manual from the creator of the universe, why are they missing some of the most important instructions? So let's just start right there. Really think about it. If you had a direct line to the architect of everything, what would you want in that user guide? The secrets of the cosmos? The fundamental laws of physics? Maybe, a cure for disease? Just hold that thought, because we're about to dive into what the source material argues we got instead.
All right, let's get into it. The author of our source material starts off by pointing out what they call the glaring omissions in a lot of these ancient texts. The kind of stuff you'd think a creator might want to mention.
We're talking about the absolute building blocks of reality here. The article points out there's nothing, not a single word about everything being made of atoms. There's no heads up that, hey, by the way, the Earth goes around the sun. A little tidbit that could have saved some folks a whole lot of trouble later on. And not even a hint about how all life on this planet is connected through evolution. And it just keeps going. Nothing about the continents literally floating around on a sea of magma. But this next one, this is the one the author really zeroes in on. Germ theory. They make this incredible point that a single sentence, something as simple as, hey, wash your hands, because there are tiny, invisible things that can make you sick. That one line could have prevented centuries of plagues and saved literally hundreds of millions of lives. And yet, nothing. So if all the big picture, life-saving, universe-explaining stuff was left on the cutting room floor, what did make it in? This is where the analysis gets really, really interesting. It's all about the priorities that are actually laid out in these books. The author uses this absolutely brilliant metaphor to frame it. They argue that instead of getting an encyclopedia of the universe, what we got reads a lot more like a divine homeowners association manual. It's super focused on very specific and, let's be honest, sometimes really baffling rules for how to live day to day. And this table just lays the contrast out perfectly, doesn't it? The source highlights that instead of getting the secrets of quantum mechanics, we got very specific rules about not eating shellfish. Instead of a heads up on germ theory, we got regulations against wearing clothes made of mixed fabrics. And instead of, say, geology, we got a pretty intense focus on what people were doing in the bedroom. The difference is, well, it's pretty stark. So, what is going on here? How do you explain this bizarre list of priorities? Well, according to the author, the answer isn't that the manual is broken. It's that we've been completely misunderstanding its purpose all along. It was never meant to be a science book. It was built to do something else entirely. And this is the core idea from the source material. These texts are a form of social software. They weren't written to explain how the stars work. They were designed to hold a very fragile, very scared ancient society together. Think of it as a survival guide for a very specific time and place. Let's look at how this plays out. Take strict dietary laws, for example, like the bans on pork or shellfish. The author suggests this had nothing to do with divine culinary preference. It was practical. In a hot climate with zero refrigeration, those foods are some of the first to go bad and make people deathly ill. So the rule wasn't random. It was basically a public health directive for the Bronze Age. And you see the same logic applied to the social structure. Why the intense focus on who could sleep with whom? Well, the article argues it was all about stability. In a world with no DNA tests, these rules created very clear lines of inheritance and social order. It was a way to prevent the kind of chaos that could completely tear a tribe apart. So the crucial point here is that even rules that seem totally arbitrary to us now, like what kind of fabrics you could mix, they had a vital job to do back then. They created an instant visual identity. They reinforced who was one of us and who was an outsider. In a dangerous world with scarce resources, that kind of tribal unity was literally a matter of life and death. Okay, so this brings us to the author's final and maybe most provocative point. If we accept this idea that these texts are a form of social software, what does that mean for us today, living in a world of gene editing and space travel? The author pulls out another great metaphor here, calling these ancient rules fossilized sociological duct tape. And the idea is just so clear, right? This was the stuff that patched ancient societies together, held them in one piece, and kept them from falling apart. It was incredibly important then, but it was designed for a completely different operating system than the one we're running now. And this quote from the article just nails it. It summarizes the entire argument perfectly. The point wasn't to reveal the secrets of the cosmos. The point was much more immediate, much more down to earth.
create just enough social stability for a civilization to survive, to get its footing, and to maybe, just maybe, eventually invent the tools to figure out the heavens for itself.
And so we end here, with the question the author leaves us to think about. If we reframe these ancient texts not as divine science, but as ancient social code, it raises a massive question for our time. What are the consequences? What are the conflicts that pop up when we try to run the incredibly complex hardware of the 21st century on a 3,000-year-old operating manual? Definitely something to chew on.